My talk started with so much energy, and I had a group of strangers, I'm talking pretty much strangers, on their feet, you guys. On their feet. They've never met me before. Clapping, anticipating, waiting for me to start my talk. Hey, welcome to episode 60. So there I was, back of the room. I told the AV guy to absolutely crank it, and that all the other music played so far that day was just way too soft. So he had Thunderstruck by AC/DC teed up and ready to go. I looked out in front of me from the back of the room at all these back of the heads. The room was absolutely full of people. And my bio was being read by Andrew Dotto. So if you don't know who he is, if you're from overseas, he's a really well-known Aussie actor. So he's reading my little bio. I had the lapel mic on. I was wearing a black suit, and I had a really bright coral sort of singlet on underneath. And I had my little lapel mic clipped onto the side of my suit. And I had this massive clicker. It felt like a 1980s like cell phone. Do you remember those? It was like a brick, this huge clicker. So I could, click back and forth on my slides. If any of you have been speaking before at like a convention center or a large venue, you probably totally know what I'm talking about. It's the big clicker that comes from the venue. So I'm sitting there. I'm ready to go. Have you heard the quote, "How you do one thing is how you do everything"? Are you just trying to be quote unquote, good enough in what you do? Or are you operating in a way that will make you think, I gave that my absolute best shot, or I'm really proud of that? And I'm not talking about perfection, you guys. Sometimes, obviously, there's a really hard time in life as well. And sometimes good enough, honestly, is all that we can do. But I'm talking about it in general, as this applies to business. Think about how you're delivering your products and your services. Could they be even more amazing? More memorable? So there I was, about to walk up on stage to speak. The MC Andrew had finished reading my bio. Now guys, I could have just chosen a random song because the event organizer asked me, hey, what song do you want to play when you go up on stage? I could have just not given it too much thought, just Googled top 10 pop songs. And I could have just let the AV team guess how loud I wanted that music to play or where to start the track. However, I wanted to set the stage so people could take notice. So they felt something. So they anticipated what was to come. So I thought about a song that would unite, get people on their feet, had a story behind it I could tell, and meant something to me. So why Thunderstruck? Well, you guys, because I used to work for Tony Robbins, as some of you might know from meeting me before or listening to previous episodes in this show. And I used to run specifically an event of his called Wealth Mastery. So I was sort of in charge of the room, right? I was the room manager. And as such, I also helped to get dancers on stage to get the room all amped up and ready to go after lunch and the core breaks. When I say dancers on stage, I'm talking about crew. Like the events were run by a combination of paid crew and volunteers. And I'm just talking about organizing volunteers, getting them on stage to follow my lead. Nothing was choreographed. It was just like basic clapping to the beat with like really funny dance moves that anybody could do. And I will never ever forget this one time in London when I was actually still living in the States. And I was there with a friend of mine, Terry, who was also working for the company at the time, for Tony. And we both got up on stage and we split the room against each other. And we just got one side of the room clapping off against the other side of the room. Basically, whatever side of the room would make the most noise. So you had them kind of competing against each other. During that time, I felt so alive. I was so amped up. I was so excited. It was such a nostalgic time because it was right on the edge of the time I was moving to Australia as well and about to start my life here. And to me, this song by AC/DC, Thunderstruck, is about as Aussie as you can get. So I chose it. And I made sure that the AV team played it loud and started at the right spot. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And sure enough, my talk started with so much energy, and I had a group of strangers, I'm talking pretty much strangers, on their feet, you guys, on their feet. They've never met me before, clapping, anticipating, waiting for me to start my talk. So over to you. The next time you deliver a talk, a training, a meeting, a product, a service, how can you infuse more energy into it? How can you get people to listen? How can you get them to remember it and you even more? See you next time.